Welcome to the Maternity Mama podcast, where we talk about your pregnancy journey and beyond into parenting. We'll share our own personal experiences and the tips we've learned along the way. Maternity Mama is in partnership with MaternityTraders.com, where you can find gently used maternity clothes for a great price and have them shipped right to your front door. Welcome to the Maternity Mama podcast. We're starting our new monthly segment, Their Path to Motherhood. Today we're going to hear about Nicole's story. So this is my friend Nicole. Thanks for being with us. And we're just going to dive right in if you're okay.
Yeah.
All right. So tell me a little bit about yourself, Nicole.
So I am a new mom. First new mom, my little girl Avery. I'm a teacher. So that's how I met you. Mm-hmm. My husband and I have been married for 3 years. We just celebrated our third anniversary. I had to think about that for a second. And we live in Wind Lake. And we both are from the area.
Here in Wisconsin.
Mm-hmm. Yep. So, yeah.
Awesome. So, tell me a little bit about you and Scott. Tell me about your relationship. You guys have been together for a while.
Yep. So, we've been together now 7 years. Okay. We both went to the same high school.
Okay.
He's a few years older than I am. So, I also kind of knew, he was a senior and I was a freshman.
Sure.
So we've known each other for a while, but didn't start dating until it was actually my good friend married his cousin.
Oh, okay.
It was their wedding was when we started talking more and hanging out.
Sure.
And then we got engaged. She proposed on my birthday.
Aww.
So he had he'll have a hard time topping that one.
Yeah, for the rest of your life.
And then we got married a couple years ago, and
Okay.
now we live in our home in Wind Lake, and have been trying to make it more our home, and we decided when we were ready to have kids. And
So tell me about that. Did you guys know you always wanted to have kids? Was it always part of the conversation?
Yeah, and it's funny that you say that too, because my dad and my college roommate told me that I had used to say in college that I never wanted kids.
Oh, really?
And I don't remember that at all. And I'm an only child, and my dad was like, yeah, I thought, you were, I was never going to be a grandpa. And I was like, really? I don't have any recollection of that. And, and my college roommate was like, once you get married and you meet someone, you'll feel different. And I don't remember that. But once we'd been together, yes, we always wanted to have kids. I'm an only child. He has one brother.
Okay.
So I always kind of thought maybe we'd have 3.
Sure.
He's always gung-ho about 2.
Okay.
So we'll see what happens if and when baby 2 comes. But yeah, and he's great. He knew from the beginning, if I kind of let him, we would have had kids right away. Okay. Right after we got married. And I was like, let's enjoy us.
Sure.
Let's enjoy, us and before we have kids and stuff.
Sure.
So it was definitely, he was like, okay, you let me know when you're ready. And so then I also was going back to school. So I kind of wanted to do a few things. We wanted to, update the house a little.
Yep.
We got a dog first, and then I was finishing school, and I was like, I think it would be easier to finish that, before I get pregnant.
Yeah.
But then my patience was wearing, and I was like, okay, I think I'm ready. So I only had one class left, and I was like, that I can handle, being pregnant.
Yes.
So it was kind of on me when I told him, I was like, okay, I think I'm ready. And he was like, all right, I've been ready. I was like, okay.
And that conversation just kind of out of the blue, you just decided?
Yeah, I don't know. It was weird that I just had this feeling okay, I think I'm ready. And I think it was a combination of my patience. I'm not a patient person. And I knew, okay, I was like, okay, I think, we did the house, we had the dog. Yeah. And I was like, okay, I think we can do the kid now.
We're ready now. It's the right order of things. Mm-hmm. Okay, we're ready for that.
Yeah.
That's awesome.
So yeah.
So you talked about school kind of being a factor, whether and having Bodhi and having the house ready. Any other factors that came up? You said Scott was ready to go from the get-go.
Yeah, and he even would be ready right now for baby number 2, and I'm the one that's like, let's enjoy it for a little bit longer. He loves kids, and I think too, like I said, he's a few years older.
Yes.
So I think in his mind, which when we were talking about, if and when number 2, because I said if we do it kind of when I was thinking, I was like, you're going to be 39, which is 40, and that's old. Did you want to be that old with a newborn? And so I don't know if he always kind of thinks about that or if he just is we'll figure it out and things will be fine regardless. But he's ready for number 2. He was ready for number 1. And I'm but also I'm a planner. Yeah. So I think I like to stick to, okay, this is kind of what we said. Yeah. This is our plan. Yeah. So, but we'll see I didn't stick to the original plan. So we'll see. So plan to a degree.
Right. So I wonder then, because I wonder if he's you're going to have number 2, and he's going to be like, okay, let's do number 3 then.
Well, and I'm curious, too. So we have Avery, a little girl. And I've asked him, I said, if we have a girl again, would you want to try for that boy?
Sure.
And I told him, I was like, I think I would want, I would want to try for that boy. Yeah. And like I said, I've always kind of thought about number 3.
Right.
Just because it was just me growing up and I was bored and lonely and talked to my dolls and myself. And he was like, no, 2. And I was like, really? And I was kind of surprised by his reaction. Yeah. So I don't know, maybe he'll change his mind. Yeah. He also thinks we're going to have twins.
Oh, so maybe it's like 2 birds, 1 stone kind of thing. And he has to make that decision.
He's really excited about that and I'm excited and nervous because I think it's a good probability because twins run on my family, on my mom's side, and on his mom's side. Oh, really? And it skips the generation that it would be our generation.
You guys are up.
So we've got that. And he keeps saying that, so I feel like he's putting that karma out there. And I just recently found out, one of my friends told me, because her sister's pregnant with twins, and I guess when you are above the age 30, your probability of having multiples increases.
Really?
And I never heard that before, and I'm like, well, I'm above 30. So that's 3, so we'll see. And then he keeps saying we're going to have twin boys.
Oh, boy.
So
we'll checking all those boxes
So I guess that would, you get that boy, and I'd get the 3, and who knows?
You'd all be happy, right?
Who knows? So we'll see. But, yeah, I don't know. I would be excited, but I think I'd be so nervous.
Oh, my God, yeah.
Because I've heard, going for, if you have twins first and then 1, that second pregnancy and that third kid is like a piece of cake because you've had the 2.
Sure.
But it's the 1 going to the 2. So, I mean, however it works out, it'll be fine. Yeah. But just a little.
Yeah. Josh jokes about that sometimes too with twins. If when we have another one and they don't run in our family, like none of that. But I just like, God, 2 to 4 just terrifies me. Or like 2.5 to 4.5. Like, oh my God.
Yeah. One of my coworkers, my old coworker, she had 2 girls. And then with her 3rd pregnancy, they had twin boys. So same kind of thing. They were thinking, 2 to 3, and then it went from 2 to 4.
Holy crap. Or that's like the nurse at school too. The 1, and then they planned for a second one and had twins, so they have 3 under 2.5.
Yeah.
I think their eldest just turned 2. Oh boy. No, thank you.
Yeah.
So when are you thinking? Whoa. When are you thinking then, like, so you said you have a plan, so you're looking at Avery to be about how old when you think about a second one?
Probably like 2.5.
Sure.
I would like it, so with Avery, I had her, she'll be 1 on Saturday. So I had, a fall baby, which I really liked that maternity leave, because I got a couple extra weeks with school with the holidays.
Sure, yeah.
So that worked out really nice to get that extra time, and so I think if we could plan it, because we got pregnant relatively easy. That's awesome. Once we kind of decided it was November, I think, like that month, I'm like, okay, I'm ready. And so, like, we first, like, actively then started driving in December. And I remember I was so disappointed that I didn't get pregnant. And I was like, why did I think it would happen, like, right away? I think maybe I had been on birth control ever since I've been, like, 16.
Sure. And
I just thought and heard that sometimes it takes a little bit longer. So I knew that, but at the same time, I was like, oh, what? It didn't happen?
Right.
But then that second month, we got pregnant. Okay. And then it was funny because then, I mean, again, we were trying.
Right.
And so I took the test, and it was positive, and I was, like, shocked. Like, I couldn't believe it. But then I was like, Nicole, we've been, like, but why are you surprised? Right. Like, you were actively trying for this. So I don't know. So hopefully 2, she's 2.5, maybe when to have the baby.
1.5 baby.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. And so we were actually just talking about this last night because, like I said, Scott's ready, and he said, you let me know. But he did say, he's like, can you, like, give me a little notice? I was like, sure, like, I'll give you a month notice. He's like, you just can't, like, just say, okay, right now. I'm like, okay, fair enough. Okay. But so we were talking last night, and so if it could work, we'd like to maybe have, like, a March, April baby.
Yeah.
So then we have, the end of the school year and then all of summer, kind of like how you did.
Yeah, it was super nice.
With Bennett. So we'll see, but that's if my patience, because then that means we'd be waiting till summer, waiting another 6-7 months. And so we'll see. I don't know.
We're on a good timeline, though, for age-wise.
Yeah.
It is. That's a nice gap, because you get to enjoy Avery and her being little and those first milestones, but it's not such a huge gap that you're like,
yeah.
Although I will say, like, all this, I don't remember half of the stuff happening all over again. It kind of just hits you in the face again. But
yeah, I'm curious, and like even like when Scott's like, I'm ready, I'm like, but I feel like, you know, we're now turning to your personality, and she, you know, I'm like, I want to enjoy that more. Not that I wouldn't whenever we, you know, I get pregnant, but I'm like, I just want to like soak it all in. Right. Before I feel like I'm not going to push her to the side, but be like, hold on, sweetie, like, you know, mom's going to do this with the baby, or
a little divided.
That's what I'm picturing it would be like.
Yeah.
So we'll see. And then, you know, just with everything going on in the world, you know, but who knows? But that's the plan.
Right.
We'll see if we stick to the plan, because I didn't stick to it last time. No. But and then it was funny. I was asking my one friend too, actually, the other day. I said, you know, does it matter? Because if I don't stick to the plan, you know, then I feel like we'd be trying around similar time frame that we did with Avery. Mm-hmm. So then we'd have 2 babies, hopefully, with the same time frame of a birthday, like October, November. Right. And I was like, well, and it was funny because when we first started talking about having kids, we talked about when would be the ideal time. Yeah. And Scott said not November, because his mom and brother's birthday was in there. Okay. And then he said not December, because then that's Christmas. Right. And then he said, and even January, because it falls, you know, it's a little too close. Yeah. And then I forget what his excuse was for February. March was his birthday.
Whole month is mine.
And April, I think he was okay with. And May, he was like, he works on a Marquette. So he's like, that's graduation. So I was like, so you let me know. And then he's like, well, I mean, it doesn't matter. You pick. So then it's back on me. So then I was like, screw you, or what's best for you. Right. So yeah, and then it just happened, you know, I guess November when I said I was ready. Yeah. And yeah, we got lucky. It took a couple months. And yeah. So, and I'll never forget when we found out that morning. So it was actually... So we found out in January, and it was either January 29th or 30th. Okay. It was when we had those super cold days. Oh, and we were having those cold days, too. We were off from school. And so I came downstairs, and I was like, babe, I was like, it says I'm pregnant. And he was like, nuh-uh. And I was like, yeah, look. And I showed him, and he's like, cool. That's right. That was quick. And I was like, babe, I'm pregnant. And he was like, I know. And I was like, and I didn't say, like, how, but again, I was so, like, at the same time, I was so surprised it happened so quickly. And then I think it was just then, I feel like once you get pregnant, then you have all those, like, oh my gosh, like, how long have I been pregnant for? Or what did I eat yesterday? Right. Or, you know, all this stuff going through. And then what was super crazy, because it was so cold, and I took a video of it on my phone, we look out, so we have these tall trees in our backyard. Yeah. And there were 5 cardinals. 1 in each of our trees. Okay. And so I looked out and I was like, oh my God. I was like, there's my mom. Because I think of cardinals remind me of our loved ones that have passed. Sure. So I was like, there's mom, there's grandma, there's grandpa. My aunt had recently passed. And he's like, well, who do I get? I was like, oh, do you want one of your grandpas out there? But it was just crazy that there was 5 cardinals. Yeah. On the morning we found out we were pregnant.
Like cold time
so
where they're
cold.
Not normally out.
Yeah.
Wow, that's super special.
Yeah, it was. And so I had to take a video of it, and that was just crazy. Yeah. And I definitely thought I also would be one of those moms and those people that, you know, we're not going to tell anyone until we're 12 weeks. I want to make it past that first trimester. And Scott from the beginning was like, he goes, you're not going to make it past the end of the day. He was like, you're going to text. I was like, no, I won't. I was like, I really want to try. Like, I really would just like to wait till we know everything's okay. And in February, so we'd gone to the doctor, and we were able to hear the heartbeat, and so things, you know, so far looked good. And then we had a weekend up at my grandparents' cottage that we've gone to, where it was like ice fishing. And so it was me, Scott, my dad, Scott's dad and his stepmom, and then his cousin Jamie and her husband Mike, who we're really close with. And of course, Sue, in years past, it's always been a drinking weekend. Right. And so, and of course, it was that time, it was 2 years, so then everyone starts asking, when are you guys going to start having kids after being married? And so we're up there, and we went out for a fish fry, and I told Scott to go get me a drink from the bar. Right. And then he was getting the drink, and his stepmom was like, oh, Nicole, I got you, like, a drink. She handed over White Claw. I was like, oh, thanks. And I was like, oh, Scott just got one. I was like, here, Jamie, you can have it. And she's like, no, you have it. And I was like, no, that's okay. And she's like, you're pregnant. And I was like, no. And she's like, then chug it. And I was like, okay, well, Scott's going to get my drink from the bar. And that's how we kind of told everyone. And then she kind of felt bad. And then so did Nikki, that it was kind of like a forced, like, and then it worked out fine because then we told our parents right away. And then we waited until a few more people, like, once we knew and everything. But it made kind of the big announcement. But it was a little unfortunate, but it worked out fine.
It worked out just
fine. But,
And your other big announcement was on St. Patrick's Day, wasn't it?
Yeah.
Another big drinking holiday.
Yeah, and so that was when we were past the 12 weeks. And in Scott's side of the family, because his birthday's in March, he has a cousin and uncle whose birthday's on St. Patty's Day. So St. Patty's Day is really big for his family. And at the time, his cousin was a surrogate for a family. So her and I got matching T-shirts that said, "I wish I could drink," with little baby feet. And so when we got to the bar, I took, like, my jacket off, and then Scott's dad was like, "I have an announcement to make," and then, like, pointed to my shirt and everything. So he was really excited to tell everyone.
So cute.
And then we shared on Facebook and let everyone kind of know that way. And, yeah.
So let's go back a little bit to your beginning of your pregnancy. So how old were you?
I was 31
when
we got pregnant.
And you were planning and you were trying. What were the first, like, clues? Why did you just take a test because it was time? Were you feeling pregnant? Like, some people say they were feeling pregnant.
No, I definitely didn't feel pregnant. No. Again, I'm impatient, so I didn't even, it wasn't like I'm like, oh, I'm 7 days late for my period. I was just like, hey, we're trying, and and it was funny because I actually had a weekend before that, I was going up north with a bunch of my friends. And so I was like, oh, let's take a test. Rather than safe than sorry, I know it's negative. So whatever, had fun that weekend. And then that Wednesday, I took a test and it was positive. I was like, I was like, babe, I drank over the weekend. Avery's fine. She's perfect. Everything was okay.
You start Googling, like, right there. How much can I drink? 4 weeks pregnant.
And then I felt bad, but then it was like, no, like, things are okay. But no, I didn't really have any, like, feelings. It was just we were trying, and I didn't have any of those, like, that gut feeling like I think I'm pregnant, or I never was sick throughout any of my pregnancy. I was really nice, that way. I wasn't nauseous. I mean, I was your typical tired, which I like to say, like, tired doesn't even describe how you feel.
It's not.
Not even, like, in general when you're pregnant, let alone those. I remember that first trimester just feeling
awful,
like,
isn't it?
Like, even exhausted isn't the word. Like, I feel like unless you're pregnant, that's the only way you can really understand the extent of it.
It's like a whole nother level of exhausted. Like, and as teachers, we're on our feet all day, and it's like, I couldn't even make it. I remember, like, sitting when I would normally stand, like, by my smartboard and, like, pulling up my chair and, like, sitting, like, I'm just gonna get close to you and see how your work's going, and, like, no, I'm just exhausted.
Yeah, it was, and, like, I would be going to bed 7:30. Like, I go to bed early now, but I mean, I'd be sleeping.
Right.
Like, where now I go upstairs, relax, whatever, but, like, I'd be out cold.
Yeah. Oh, my first pregnancy, I'd come home and nap. So I'd leave work, like, right at 3, which I, like, never do, and I'd get home and I would nap till Josh got home, like, an hour and a half later, and did not feel any sort of guilt about it.
Yeah.
I remember, too, one time our principal came in to my office, and I'm sitting in my chair, and it's my prep time, and it's fine, and he looks at me and goes, "You're just always sitting now." And I looked at him, "I'm pregnant." And he just kind of looks at me and goes, "Enough."
Yeah.
Said, like, okay, just walked out the room, like, what? Are you? I'm exhausted. Shut up. And he knows his wife had twin boys. But
no, he gets it. I remember when I came back, I think. So when school started, I was very pregnant.
Yes, you were very pregnant.
And I remember asking, because, during summer, I was basically just in long skirts or dresses. And with the little kids, I'm the early childhood teacher. Yeah. It's really not feasible to be in long skirts, or you need to be able to move. And I remember asking our principal, and I was like, can I wear leggings? Like, I wouldn't ask this. Like, I can't wear what I've been wearing over summer, but I have to be comfortable. And he was like, Moeller, you could wear a toga. He goes, I don't care what you wear. I need you to be comfortable. I need you to be here. That's fine. I'm like, got it. Perfect. And I was like, I promise I'll wear shirts that are long enough. Like, you don't, and I was like, I'm pregnant. I don't want anyone seeing anything. You don't need to worry about that. But he, I feel like, definitely gets it and is supportive when.
Yeah, which is nice from a male principal. Like, it helps a ton for sure.
Yeah.
So your first trimester, you were super tired. What, did you feel that magical, like everybody says it's a magical wave, like in that second trimester where you get your energy back? Did you feel that?
Yeah. And like I mentioned, so Scott's cousin was a surrogate, and she was due, she was due with twins.
Okay.
So she was due middle of August. So we were somewhat close. We were a couple months off. And so she was a couple months ahead of me.
Okay.
And so she would tell me, and she has 2 kids of her own, and she also, this was her 3rd surrogacy.
Oh,
so
wow.
I feel like she's a pregnancy pro.
That's amazing. Good for her.
And she would tell me, she was like, Nicole, just wait, you're going to get this burst of energy. She's like, I know it's crazy, but you're going to feel it. And I'm like, okay. And I did. Yeah. And I kept being like, okay, Lori. And she's like, no, you will. And I'm like, okay, whatever. And I did. And it was so, like, it was a relief. Like, I still was tired, but not nearly the same. Exhausted, so definitely I had that.
Yeah. And you never had any food aversions or anything, did you? No,
I just had cravings. I wanted burgers and ice cream.
You ate cheeseburgers, I think, 3 out of 5 days.
Yeah.
And I think you would have had it all.
Yeah.
All 5 days.
Yeah. We joked that when I was pregnant that Avery was either going to be a vegetarian, which would be hilarious because of how many burgers I ate, and that she'd be lactose intolerant because I had so much ice cream and milk. I had Culver's at McDonald's almost every day. And at one point I remember, I don't know if it was Scott or my dad once, and I was like, oh yeah, I was like, I want this for dinner, or, we're having Culver's, and my dad was like, again? I was like, yeah, again. He's like, didn't you just say you had that? Or like, Scott would be like, didn't you have a burger for lunch? I go, yeah. And I'd like that for dinner, please. He's like, all right.
At least they didn't argue.
No, and it was nice because where we live, so there's a little diner down the road. So when we could switch it up. I could have McDonald's from school. Then I could have that for dinner at Culver's. Right. And when we had the Dairy Queen.
But it's always a burger.
Yes.
Always a cheeseburger, right?
Yep.
That's hilarious.
Yeah. But yeah, otherwise I was really lucky in terms of, didn't feel sick at all, just those cravings, didn't have really any, like you said, no aversions. Yeah. And it wasn't until the end, like those last couple weeks, where I was feeling really uncomfortable.
Yeah, I was just going to ask you about that, your 3rd trimester.
Yeah, 3rd trimester towards the end was rough. My legs started to swell a little bit. My blood pressure wasn't getting very high, but I just started to feel like, and I felt like one day all of a sudden my face was just like kind of super puffy. Yeah. And it was definitely those last couple weeks.
Sure. Were they ever worried about preeclampsia?
No, because I remember every time when you go like those 2 weeks towards the end, I'd be like, everything was okay. Like, and my doctor's like, no. She's like, you look fine, honey. Like, I don't see, and your numbers are good. Yeah. And I was like, okay. Okay. So I think, obviously, and I love my OB. So whatever she says, I trust. Yeah. So yeah, everything went well. And then, so my due date was October 9th. Mm-hmm. That came and went.
Yes, it did. You were thrilled.
Yeah. And so what had happened, too, was, I forget what the day of the week the 9th was last year. But anyways, I was going on, I want to say it was Mondays and Thursdays were my weekly appointments towards the end then. And it was past my due date, so it was on a Thursday. And my doctor was like, Nicole, if I could induce you, like if I were on call this weekend, I would have you go to the hospital tomorrow, but I'm not. Because then our goal was if she was going to induce me, she wanted to do it when she was going to be on call. Yeah. And I'm like, okay. And so she was like, but she's like, this weekend, she was really great about telling me like the on-call doctors, like in case, in case this happens. And so then she's like, we're going to get you scheduled for Monday. That's when we're going to schedule, because she was on call either that Monday night or Tuesday, and with how it all worked. I'm like, okay. So I got all excited, told work, Scott told work, okay, this is going to be your last weekend, come Monday. And what they had me do is they had to call me. I had to call the hospital and say, are we still good for tonight? She was going to induce me at night. So I called, and I was like, yeah, I'm just calling to see what time I should come in for getting induced today. And they're like, oh, no. I was like, what? And the hospital I delivered at Waukesha Memorial was so busy. Oh. So didn't get induced that day. And then there was another time, too. It was like 3 times where we thought this was going to happen. And then finally I'd gone into my doctor, and I was like, Dr. Duke, I was like, at what point do I trump all the others? Right. I was like, because now at this point I was 41 weeks, and she's like, now you're priority. She's like, the only other person above you would be like labor and delivery that came in natural. Okay. Because she said any other like scheduled inductions that are, 39, 40.
Like how you were.
Right. She's like, pushed. You trump. And I was like, great. Love it. So then we got induced on a Wednesday, and it was so strange because I feel like, I don't know, I just imagined the first time being pregnant, it was going to be, my water breaks. Yeah. I'm yelling at Scott to drive faster. Right. Like I'm in horrible pain. Right. And my dad was coming to stay at the house to watch Bodie. And so he was like, okay. I felt like I was like my last supper. He brought over Portillo's for dinner, and we called when we were done with dinner and said, are we still good? And they're like, yeah, we're ready for you. We're waiting. I'm like, all right. Okay. It was such a weird feeling. We got in the car, and I remember my dad hugged Scott and was like, take good care of her. And I got in the car, I'm like, take good care of her? What's going to happen to me? Like, all of a sudden, it was all these emotions, and then I'm crying on the way to the hospital. And Scott's like, what's wrong? I'm like, I don't know. I'm feeling nothing, and we're going to the hospital, and we're going to have this baby, and Dad said take care of me, and what is supposed to happen? But everything was fine. It was a long 24 hours. Yeah. So they induced me. I think by the time we got in registered, it was like 8 o'clock when they started with Pitocin right away, and
what does that look like? So when you get induced in the Pitocin, it goes through an IV.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Yep. And so my goal was I have no shame admitting I wanted the drugs. I wanted the epidural. I think that was the only consistent thing I told the nurse from the get-go. I was like, I want the epidural. I don't want to get that point where it's too late. Right. Just so you know, wherever you need to document it, that's what I want. They're like, okay. And so they started the Pitocin right away. They put in this like balloon thing to soften my cervix, I think, and open it up. And so then they said once you reach 5 centimeters, it would naturally fall out. So it either falls out at 5 centimeters or it can be up until 12 hours. It could be in you. And so then they're coming to check on that. They kind of described it kind of like a tampon. Okay. Like they pull on it, and if it was great, they'd fall out. Otherwise, if it was not moving, you weren't. So they had that, and then the contractions came on pretty strong. Okay. And I think I made it 4 hours before I was like, is there anything you can give me? And so they gave me some drug. I should probably know the name of it, but I don't. And they were like, you're going to feel instant relief. And I remember asking Scott, I'm like, do you care? Does it matter? Like, I want the epidural anyways. Because what I was afraid of is I was hoping I could walk a little bit more. Yeah. And with this balloon thing in me, and then I knew once you have the epidural, then you have, help me out, you go to the bathroom.
Oh, the catheter.
Thank you. The catheter. And I was like, they were putting all these things in me, and I'm trying to get a baby out. Right. So I was trying to hold it off kind of as long as possible, but I was like, I couldn't bear and so they gave me some medicine, which instant relief. And so I was able to sleep. Okay. Then they gave me another dose, and I remember at 6 was when it wore off. And they're like, okay, Nicole, no more. So it's either you tough it out to the epidural or you get the epidural. And then they came in and they said, they had a scheduled C-section, I think, at like 8. So they're like, if you want.
So this is the following morning then.
Yep. So now this is Thursday morning. They're like, if you want, you can have the epidural before that, because otherwise that's when the anesthesiologist is ready now or after, and I can't tell you when it'll be done. Right. And I was like, nope, let's do it now. So got that. And it wasn't bad. No, it wasn't. I don't do well with needles, so I'm glad I couldn't see it. Yeah. It's behind you. Right. But that went fine. And then it was, relief. I could always feel pressure. Okay. But I wasn't in any pain and didn't have any complications from the epidural. And then my doctor came in and checked on me before clinic at like 8. And I didn't really open more, so she had to pull the balloon because it had been that full 12 hours. Wow. And at the time, though, when she did, I think I was like 5 or 6. She's like, great. She's like, I'll see you later this afternoon. Like, you're doing good. I'm like, okay, perfect. And then they kept checking me, and at 1 o'clock, I was at 9 centimeters. So I was like, perfect. And then I stayed at 9 until the evening. And then it was like around 4 o'clock that day. Then I started to kind of get upset because I was like, and Scott and the nurse were like, what's wrong? And I was like, I'm never having this baby. She doesn't want to come out. And then I also started to get upset knowing that my OB, her shift, she wasn't on call that day, and her shift was going to probably end around 5-ish. Sure. And so she came back after clinic and was like, all right. And she's like, well, she was helping out with a C-section that night. Okay. So she said, I'm going to go back for the C-section, and then I'll be back. And I was like, back to say goodbye? Or, and she's like, we're having this baby. And so then it was a relief that I knew my OB was going to be delivering Avery. And so then she came back after her C-section and still, like, nothing. And she came in, I remember, I don't know what baseball game, but Scott was watching the baseball game, and she's like, okay, it's happening. She's like, Scott, come up. And I looked at him, I was like, is she serious? And he was like, I think so. And then, everyone came in, and you're ready. And I remember his cousin telling me, like, when it gets close, like, all of a sudden, it's like, people are in these, like, all of a sudden the room kind of changes. Like, they bring, the cart in and everything. And so at one point when it was ready, and, my doctor's been under counts, and Scott's like, you got one of those for me? Because he was up there, he was holding my leg. I had him on one and the nurse on the other. And she was like, nope, sorry, that's just for me. And so it was about an hour of pushing. And at one point, it wasn't, I mean, it was happening.
Right.
But I think because at that point now, I was almost 24 hours.
Okay.
And I told Dr. Diogo, I said, you know, however this happens, I said, if it ends up in a C-section, I said, I just want, you know, me healthy and the baby okay.
Yeah.
Because I felt like she had this look that she was, and she said, she's like, it may come to that, but we'll try for a little bit longer. So it was about an hour of pushing, and then I remember I would close my eyes when I pushed, and she was like, honey, look, and she was showing me Avery, and I was like, oh my God. And then I was like, I would do that again. That was a breeze. Well, what about the last 24 hours? Because it's just that moment, and I was like, you know. So yeah, it was a long, and so then we had her on Thursday, and then we got discharged Saturday morning.
Okay.
And no complications afterwards with myself or Avery. And at the time, too, we had two names. It was either Avery or Harper.
Okay.
And I had warned Scott, and I was like, because my pregnancy was very similar to my mom's.
Okay.
So she felt good her whole pregnancy and had a really long labor. Okay. So I told Scott, I said, if mine's similar to my mom's, which sometimes they say that happens, I was like, I'm not going to be ready to name her.
Right.
It's like, so you're going to, unless, you know, she looks like one or the other. And
you feel really strongly about one or the other.
And she was born and we didn't. And it was a couple hours. And I was like, babe, can you name her? Like, I don't want to keep calling her baby or baby girl. I want to name her. And so he was like, Avery Joan. So he named Avery. And we had a couple visitors. And it worked out nice then. So then we had her Thursday night. And then with it being Friday and people working. Yeah. So his mom came to visit in the morning. And then we kind of had all day just us, which was nice. And then my dad came after work. And then, like, Friday night was when we had few more visitors. And then we were discharged Saturday morning. Sure. So.
And were you okay with that? Or did you ever feel like you needed to tell them, like, take a break, leave me alone?
No, I think it was good. I was really nervous. Like, my big thing was I didn't want anyone in the waiting room. Mm-hmm. I was like, and I only wanted Scott in, like, the room with me. Mm-hmm. I was like, I wanted to be us. I was like, there's no point of you guys waiting right outside, in my opinion. Right. And, you know, I just said, we'll keep you updated and stuff. So I think it worked out really well because I also was like, when I think back about it too, I was like, wouldn't want anyone there too, like, a couple hours after. Like, when I look back and, like, you know, I had her at 8, but then I feel like when they do everything with the baby and then it's like, I hadn't eaten all that time, so then we're eating, and then it was like 9, 10 o'clock before I felt like I was so feeded in, like, I just had a baby. Right. This is our daughter. Right. So, and then it worked out nice, because then again, you know, my mother-in-law got to visit in the morning, and then we had all that day with her, and then the visitors, and, you know, and they were nice. They didn't say, you know, it's not like we had to kick them out. Right. And then we had all night, and then Saturday morning. Right. So, awesome. Yeah, it worked out really, really well, because that was something I was nervous about, that we'd have to, like, tell people no, and I felt bad because she was the first grandkid, and everyone wants to, you know, congratulate you and see a nice baby and visit you, and it's so exciting, but I just was very kind of private, I felt like, with that, and so it worked out really well, because I think that was something I was, like, nervous about. Yeah. But
so I want to ask you about your OB, because you've mentioned a couple times you really loved her. Mm-hmm. How'd you find her?
She actually, Scott's cousin Jamie, who I'm really close with, that was her. Okay. OB, she recommended her to me, and so once, I think it was a year or two, Scott and I weren't married yet, because otherwise I've been going to the same OB since I was 18, and she was out in Tosa. Okay. And I was like, and I liked her, but I was like, once we get pregnant, I'm not going to be driving out to Tosa for my visit. So, and it turns out that a few of other, like, Jamie's friends all have her, and so, and then now a couple of my friends have had her, and I've referenced her out, and they all love her, and so yeah, she's great, and the whole, all their doctors, even, like, the doctor that discharged me that was within, like, the clinic and stuff, she was really nice, and I really had great experiences there.
And so when you went in there to meet her, what is it that you really liked about her? Like, if you wanted to, you know, when you reference people to her, why do you do that?
I remember, like, I felt like my previous appointments with the OB, it's like you're in and out. Yeah. You know, I was probably there for my first initial appointment for, like, 45 minutes. Wow. Like, she really just took the time to get to know you, and, you know, just, I don't know, she's just so sincere, and she just also has this calming about, like, I remember then when I was pregnant and going in for those visits, like, And I joke about this, like, she could tell me to go do this, and I'd be like, on it, like, whatever it may be. I trusted her, and you just have that trust, and she's so sincere and very calming, you know, and I think, too, for a first-time mom, like, huge. You have all those questions or this and that, and there's something about her that she really, really takes good care of her patients. That's awesome. And is sincere about it. And you're not, like, in and out, you know. So, yeah, she's great.
That's awesome.
Mm-hmm.
So, thinking back to your pregnancy, I know during both of my pregnancies, you get a ton of advice. I'm sure I gave you advice. And it's solicited and unsolicited. Mm-hmm. So, what's the best piece of advice you got and the worst piece of advice you got?
I think the best piece of advice I got was kind of along the lines of, you know, you do you and what's best for you and your family.
Yeah.
And I think in the beginning, too, I was so, like, torn on, you know, breastfeeding or formula and going back and forth. And my mom, I was formula fed. And I was like, okay, I want to try the breastfeeding experience. But then I was like, I didn't know if it was really for me. Sure. And my one friend in particular was like, don't let anyone make you feel bad about that. Yep. And then just other people saying, you know, just do what's best for you. And so I feel like, you know, to any other, you know, new moms, like, whatever you feel best is for you and your husband and your baby, like, don't feel bad about it.
Yep.
And just do it.
Yep.
So I think, and that really, and I try to remember that too, like, as we, like, move forward and stuff. Like, we're going to do what's best for Scott, Avery, and I, you know, right now. The worst piece of advice, I don't know. I don't know if I really had any that I was like, okay.
Did you get any, like, off the wall kind of, like, I don't even know. Don't eat pickles because it's going to give your baby 10 toes.
No. I mean, I definitely... And I didn't have that many people, like, touch my belly or anything that, like, sometimes, you know, you have that when you're on public or whatever. My friend's now husband at the time, he kissed my belly. And she was like, honey, you have to ask people before you just do that. And I was like, it's okay. And she's like, no, but he needs to know. And it was really cute and sweet. And then he realized that it probably wasn't appropriate, but... And then I thought about it. I'm like, even Scott at the time hadn't kissed my belly. So I was like, that was a little weird, but not like the worst thing.
Right.
But yeah, I can't really remember anything in particular that.
Well, that kind of worked out.
Yeah.
Good. So what would you have done differently now going through it? And then maybe you can think about, you know, if you're going to have baby number 2, what's something you do differently for your pregnancy for yourself, if you could?
Yeah.
If it's something you had control over, I suppose.
Sure. I think I would try and be, like, a little bit more active. Okay. I mean, I took Bodhi for walks and everything.
Sure.
My one friend, too, was always like, if you can, like, just even if it's just moving and stuff, she's like, I swore that really helped. And with my recovery, which I do think it did. And I remember my doctor, because after I had Avery, and she had said it was from all the fluids in the IVs, my legs were so swollen. And we live in a tri-level, so we don't have that many stairs. We have, like, 6 stairs up and 6 stairs down. But going upstairs to, like, the bedroom and the bathroom, it hurt so bad because my legs were so swollen. Yeah. And so my doctor said, you know, right away, just start walking. That's how you're going to get rid of the fluid and elevating. So I think because I did that, you know, I remember I think it was, like, day 2 or once we got home that Saturday or Sunday, we took the dogs for a walk. And so I think I would want to do that. And even just kind of do a little bit more of it during my pregnancy, because I wonder if maybe it would give me a little bit more energy. Yeah. And I think I did an okay job of, you know, not throwing the one pregnancy, I'm going to eat whatever I want. Right. But it's so hard. Yeah. So I think I would just, you know, moving forward for baby 2, try. And I think now, because my biggest fear, not my biggest fear, but I'm just really worried about when I get pregnant with baby number 2, knowing how tired you are, and then now you're chasing around a little one. So I think I'm going to be more aware and really being like, Scott, can you do this, or I'm going to go take a nap, or I'm going to, and just make sure that I'm taking some more self-care for me. Yeah. Because you can so easily, you know, work all day and then come home with this and this, and then it's like, it's 8 o'clock before. I'm just imagining what it would be. Yeah. Because even like last night, it was like 6:30, and I'm like, oh, God, I'm going to bed in about an hour. Right. Yeah. So I think just for baby number 2, be more aware of self-care. Yeah. And not that I wasn't good about it last time, but I think there's just, I could easily just rest before. Yeah. Where that's not going to be the case now. No. I mean, it could be if I make it. Right. But not so easy where I can just sit on the couch and watch TV till I go to bed.
I will say, though, you think you can make it happen that way right now, but then like on Saturday, Avery goes from your sweet little baby to a toddler, and toddlers have no shame, none, and they like Sam's in this stage, and I think he's been in this stage for a while, but I think he's just cute. I kind of let it go for a while. Like he just stares at me dead in the face while I'm telling him not to do something.
Sure.
And that's toddlers.
Sure.
Like, they just go for it. Yeah. So, but good luck.
Well, it was funny because I was texting my friend last night, and I was like, and I told her how, like, I'm really just worried that, you know, and I said, it's pretty bad, isn't it? I'm like, you can be honest with me. And she's like, I'm not going to lie. She's like, it's not the greatest. And she's like, and it was funny. She legit said, I falsely convinced myself that when I would have the second, it would be like a playmate. And she's like, it's more so because her kids are, she had a boy first and then a little girl, and they're about 2 years apart. And so she was like, you know, when I had my daughter, it was pretty much telling her son, like, nope, don't drag your sister on by the head. Yep. Like, you have to be gentle. So she's like, you're going to do more of that.
Yes. Yeah. And I wonder, I'm curious, we'll have to see, like, when you have a baby, because she also had a son first, and, like, I'm doing the same. Like, Sam, you can't hit Bennett in the head with a dinosaur. Like, he doesn't want to be eaten by the dinosaur.
Right.
I just wonder, because boys are naturally more wild, I feel like. And not that girls aren't, but I feel like boys are just like, about everything. So I'm curious to see what Avery will do. Like, I know you're going to have to keep the baby safe from the toddler. Like, that's a thing. But I just wonder, like, what's going to come out of your mouth?
Well, and I'm curious, too, because they say that, too. Our good friend just had a baby about a month ago. So we went and visited them over the weekend. And my friend was holding his baby. And Scott was holding Avery, and she very much is like, she'll just hit you. That's how she plays with the dog, and Bodhi's great with her. But it was really funny. It was like she knew, like we were saying, be gentle, but she then just put her head on his head, and it was the sweetest thing. And I was like, she didn't swat him like she normally does. It was almost like whether or not she was listening and got the cue of be gentle, or if she just knew. Like it was really interesting to see, because I told her, I was like, sweetie, I was like, you haven't seen a baby like younger than you. No. So it was really interesting to see, you know, the little bit interaction.
Yeah.
But yeah, it was interesting, and it was just so sweet. But then she'll do that with Bodhi. Like she'll crawl over where Bodhi is, and then she'll lay down, or like she'll try and give him a kiss and go,
Try the kiss, but really I'm gonna eat you.
And the other one time too, it was hilarious. Bodhi went to give her a kiss, so his tongue got in her mouth, and I started laughing, and she laughed, and I was like, "Oh, he got you. You wanted a kiss. You got a kiss.
You got a kiss there, right there."
But yeah, I am curious, because she even now too, like she knows she likes to pull herself up by our entertainment center, and she likes to play with like our DirecTV box.
Okay.
And I'll tell her, I'll be like, Avery, no, and she'll look back and she'll go, ha ha. And then she'll do it again. So it's like she's already doing the staring at you and telling you no in her own way. And I should know better, especially, you know, given our field, that I shouldn't laugh and encourage it. But of course I do.
It's so hard.
Before I then move her away. But yeah.
But by then the damage is done.
Right. Yeah. And even like now too, her newest thing is she'll like spit. Like she'll go. And she loves to do it because it gets a reaction of everyone she's eating.
Right.
And so, like, last night, my mother-in-law was over, and she was eating, and she was doing it, like, worse than she's ever done. And I was like, Avery, no. And I was telling him, I was like, just stop laughing, like, try it, like, because I was like, she's doing it to get a reaction out of us, and it's working.
Right.
But yeah, that's true. And but we say, like, when she does it, like, gently, that she's, like, talking. Because we'll be like, Avery, and then she'll go, but that's her new thing.
That's so funny.
Yeah. She's
awesome.
She's a thinker.
So my last thing, and you kind of touched on this, but if you could give some advice to a new mom, or a newly pregnant mom, like what would be your one solid piece of advice?
As hard as it is not to worry and stress, don't worry and stress. Because I just feel like there's so much to stress about. Yeah. And I think, too, and I've told Scott this, I was like, you know, I think I was so, just being a first-time mom, I was naive, and, like, I didn't know what could go wrong or what, you know, things like that. So I wasn't aware of that. And now having her or hearing more stories from a few people, I'm like, wow, like, we were really lucky. Yeah. Like, a really smooth pregnancy for the most part. Yeah. Like, labor and delivery, it was long, but we made it, and everyone was okay. And so I think I told them, I said, so now when I'm pregnant again, I was like, I'm not going to get on those Facebook groups with the moms, because you just hear, and I even like showed him a couple of videos or like read a post, and he's like, why are you reading that? And I'm like, I know, but it's so sad. He goes, but that's not us. And so I think when you hear those stories, and being pregnant, and you have all those what ifs or the worries as a mom in general. And so I just think, like, try not to stress and worry because then the baby's going to feel it.
Right.
And so I just think if you can, like, alleviate, you know, do what you have to kind of, and if it's just, you know, whatever that is, whether it's not talking to certain people or, you know, disconnecting from social media or whatever, to make it better and easier for you. But I know it's definitely easier said than done.
Yes.
To not stress and worry and, like, even, you know, just, like, you know, relating this current pregnancy to your last one or, like, birth story to your previous one, you know, it's so hard not to compare.
Yeah. But it's a whole new, I mean, it's totally different every time. So, yeah.
But, so, yeah, so we'll see. So we'll see if stick to the plan or not. But yeah, so far it's been great. I don't know where this year's gone.
No. I don't know where this year's gone, and she's not mine. So I'm just like,
I was talking to my friend earlier today on the way over here, and we were talking about the birthday party on Saturday. We're having just a little get together, and I was like, I don't know where the first year went. And she's like, and I think she's like, for me, like, the first year goes by slow, and then after that is when it speeds up. So she's like, if you think this year went by fast, she's like, hold on. I'm like, oh, great. It's like, because this year, but then when I've been looking back at pictures when she was a baby, and I was like, I almost don't remember that. Yeah. And I think it's a combination. I can't really say sleep deprived because she's been a great sleeper. Yeah. I think it's just they change so much. Maybe.
That first year, they changed so much.
Like, looking back at pictures, I print off all the pictures from, like, newborn to 12-month for a little thing we're doing for a party, and I'm like, she didn't look the same, like, at all.
Right.
Even from, like, that first picture, like, in the hospital, like, when you first have them. Yeah. And then even, like, 2 days later.
Right.
I was like, you don't even look the same.
Crazy, right? Yeah.
But yeah.
That's awesome. Well, thank you.
Yeah, of course.
Thanks for joining us.
Of course.
And we'll be back with another story, another path to motherhood next week, or next month, I should say. Thanks. Thanks for listening to the Maternity Mama podcast. Be sure to listen in every week and click the follow button wherever you listen to podcasts. You can also find us on Facebook, Instagram, and YouTube by searching Maternity Mama Podcast. Also, don't forget to check out maternitytraders.com, where you can have gently used maternity clothes shipped right to your front door.